right,
Hi.
everyone. Welcome back to Rhythm and Roads. We have a very special guest. We have Christie Mae Casey, singer and songwriter. Welcome, Christie, to Rhythm and Roads.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. And it was such a pleasure to meet you back in, I believe it was like March, when you were here in El
I
Paso. I think it was
Yeah,
like
I
late
think it was
March.
it was in March. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You're definitely a very skilled songwriter. I love your voice. It just like wow. And I loved one thing I loved about our conversation was that you're from Canada, right?
I am from Canada. I'm in Canada right now.
Oh, cool.
Um
Yeah.
I'm kind of I grew up in Ontario, in
Oh, okay.
Eastern Ontario, but right now I'm in British Columbia in a small town called Lillooet. So it's a very small town, mountain town.
Oh, cool. Nice. Well, yeah, when I met you, I was just like, wow, I love meeting people from all over different countries and just it's just so inspiring to see such incredible skilled artists. And you are traveling like around the US too, going on a little tour, so that's so cool.
I love it down south. I love it there. I'm gonna be back in the fall. Um,
Nice.
I just think, the music down there and the culture down there is amazing, and it really provides a lot.
Nice. Oh, I bet it does. Yeah. Well, for those that don't know your story, and I know a little bit of it, but I'm about to find out some more. Let's get to know just what started with
Okay.
Christy. Like how it started with you with being a singer, songwriter. At what age did you get the spark to want to pursue that?
I mean, like most people, I'd always loved music. It definitely was, uh, had a big impact on me growing up and in high school. Like most kids, you have your favorite bands and it kind of becomes, your life. But it was sort of, I was just always like on the spectator thing. And I think I was very much into like punk and like heavier stuff when I was younger. Um,
You were into punk?
Definitely more of like a punk rock girl.
Wow.
And like a lot, yeah, no, that was the thing. I was in, yeah. But I think it's a natural progression for um, a lot of punks to eventually move into like country and folk kind of,
Is that
you
right?
know, music. Oh,
Wow.
definitely, because it's the whole outlaw vibe.
Well, that's
And
true.
I think, yeah, I mean, I remember, you get into more outlaw, like Woody Guthrie, was a huge outlaw, and like you get into like Johnny Cash and like Waylon and like all those guys that
Yeah.
were sort of against the grain, and it definitely had a huge influence. And then, you know, I became a bit of a vagabond at some point. After high school, in my early 20s, I was just traveling around, and I think there's a whole culture around like old time music and folk music and country music
Mm.
in that scene, and that really made me want to pick up a guitar and start playing music. So I was pretty, like, I wasn't super young. Like, I didn't start playing guitar in high school or anything like that. I was 22, I think, when I
Oh,
started to
wow. Okay.
pick up a guitar and start to write songs. So, I mean, now that seems really young, but at the time, I felt like I was so old starting. But that really was
Yeah.
um that was the time, and I think it was a lot of like music coming out of New Orleans actually that inspired me to play music, which is interesting now because I'm spending more time there and really love it there. But it definitely was stuff coming out of there that made me think, oh, I could do this, which I hadn't felt so much before when I was listening to other types of music. So
Hmm.
yeah, and it was definitely more like folky. Like Towns Van Zandt was like a big influence, and that sort of genre that made me
Yeah.
want to pick up and start writing. Just like those simple like three chords, and I think I kind of stuck with that for a really long time. And I mean, I'd always been a writer, like ever since I was a kid. Like when I was really young, I wanted to be a writer. I think that was like one of the first things I wanted to be, and wrote, started writing when I was really little, and writing stuff like writing through high school. I always like had a journal and was always writing poetry or something. So then when I like picked up a guitar, it became this other avenue for that like form of creativity.
Very cool. And I know one of your inspirations are
Yeah,
Emmylou Harris, right?
yeah, Emily O'Hare,
Yeah.
definitely a huge inspiration. Yeah, like I remember I worked in the fort, like the bush for a long time as a tree planter, and so we would just go to thrift stores on our day off. You just like these small towns, like rural towns, and we'd go to these small like hospital auxiliary or church thrift stores, and I always kept like a tape player like with me because it was like cheap. I didn't want to be working out in the bush and like ruining like this expensive like iPod or phone or something. And so I would have a tape player and you just pick up whatever like tapes you could find at these thrift stores. And
Hmm.
so I remember getting, you know, Emmylou Harris or like the trio album with like Dolly Parton, Emmylou Harris,
Hmm.
and Linda Ronstadt, and that was like a big influence.
Wow.
And yeah, those I feel like that time, you know, those like random like thrift store tapes like really had a huge impact and really
Oh
kind
yeah.
of like shaped the music that I like were inspired by. Yeah.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing I was mentioning to certain artists about the timing. I was gonna go back to what you said, how you started at 22. And I was gonna say, certain points in your life when opportunities do come your way, they do at times come unexpectedly, and those are the best moments of knowing that it's really for you because you
Mm-hmm.
weren't really looking for it. It just shows up at the right time in your life, and then this is where I need to go. So yes, it may not have started when you were a teenager or younger than that, but at 22, there's a reason why it started at that age. So that's a blessing itself.
I think so. I think like yeah, totally. And I think that I do really think that if things are like meant for you, they will find you in
Yeah.
a way. And like I started playing music when I was 20, but I didn't really start playing out in front of people till way later. Like that took a lot of courage and I had a lot of hurdles to get over. And I started playing out in front of people locally, but then had sort of kind of put it on the back burner a little bit because I lived, you know, I've lived super rurally for most of my life. I've had like stints in the city here and there. I lived in Montreal for a few years,
Hmm.
right out of high school. And then, you know, I'll spend time visiting the city now. I'm like really craving the vibrancy and the pulse of an urban center these days. But for years, I spent a lot of time just in a cabin in the woods. So, like, a lot of that time, that isolation has like influenced my songwriting because that's where I like spent a lot of time, you know, playing music and writing songs. But I mostly was playing music by myself, which I think like hindered me in a lot of ways because you do really get better and a lot of inspiration with playing from other people. But
Hmm.
I homesteaded in this cabin in the woods. So I had like chickens and ducks and geese and rabbits. And I had this big garden. I was like used to grow all these flowers and like make bouquets and stuff. And so I spent a lot of energy focused into that. And
Hmm.
it wasn't till like that sort of like I phased out of that. I feel like some people's lives are like really linear and they have one path and mine's just like this crazy winding road. And I just, yeah, have found like this different chapter where now I'm like, actually, I want to be, you know, around community, around people and sharing what I'm doing with more people and getting out there and traveling. And I've always been a drifter. And even when had this cabin, you know, I'd still like leave and go places, but yeah, I was tied down more then than I feel now. And now I'm just like constantly moving around and pretty uprooted, I'd say, at this point in time.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you're traveling around and seeing the,
Yeah.
different cities and using your music to, go on a little tour for yourself. But yeah, I mean, is that something that you enjoy doing? Is just kind of having your own time, kind of like you said at the cabin, just kind of having that peace, just discovering yourself and being out there in the, with the flowers and growing your own stuff. And I mean, it
I
seems like
think
that's
so.
something you like.
I felt for a while it was like really important for me to get this like heavy and thick kind of solitude
Yeah.
and it for a time. And now I'm not, now I really am enjoying being around community and around other people and having like friends and sort of like a more like a higher vibrancy kind of happening in my life. But I do need those times to like be quiet and reflect and
Yeah.
sit and like it's like I feel like I'm both. Like I get a lot from, people say, are you introverted or extroverted? I don't think I'm either. I think like both are really important, that I
Mm.
actually get my cup filled from being around like-minded people. And then I also though need that time alone to sit and like play guitar or write new songs or like whatever creative venture I'm uh working in, because I was a visual artist as well for many years, and like
Oh
went to art
wow.
school, and I teach art to kids. It's like that's like one of the things I do for like my real job to make money. um so I think there's, as a creative person, I need to have time alone to like actually sit and focus and
Yeah.
do like let that creative flow come out, but I also really need to be around people as well.
So it does seem a little bit like a balance, huh? Introverted,
Yeah.
extroverted. I mean, that's kind of like how I am. Sometimes I enjoy on my days off at times in the evening. I'd rather just stay home and just watch a good movie and make dinner, and that's it. Recoup myself, reset
Mhm.
myself. And then there's times on the weekends, my friends will be like, "Hey, there's this like networking event for filmmakers or musicians. Come out and hang out." Sure. It all depends on your body, what your mind, and what you feel. If you listen
Mhm.
to your body and if it says, you just stay home. At times, it varies, but if you feel like, I need to take care of me, then stay home. If you feel like, okay, I can do it, then go out.
Exactly. I agree.
But whatever works, it works for you to, be who you are. One time I asked a friend,
Yeah.
and then I'll move on from this subject, but I asked her, I was like, wait, you're not going to the after party for this film festival? Like, you're like a really popular actress. And she's like, yeah, but I got to take care of me because remember, I'm out there from start to the end of the last short playing. So I'm really talking to a lot of people throughout the hours of the fest. And then I'm really exhausted. But then there's the after party. So she's like, I'd rather just go home and just take care of me now.
Yeah, no, I'll never skip an after party. I'll just get that. I'll just set
I
that
was
one
just like,
straight.
man, I
No,
would have taken a
I'll
Red Bull.
never,
I don't
I'll
know.
never skip the after party. No, I'm there for the party. I'll never skip that. Like, trust me, that ain't happening.
Oh, that's
I will
funny.
be there till the very end, till I get to bed. No, I like to go out and I like to party, and
Oh,
I
okay,
think,
okay.
yeah,
That's a different
yeah,
ball game then. All right.
yeah. Yeah, I think, which is why I needed
Oh,
to leave the cabin in the woods, because it just wasn't working for me after a while. Like I think
no.
it served a time and place.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I enjoy, and circumstantially I end up back in the country, but I need to, yeah, it's really important for me to be at a party.
All right.
Find the party.
All right. I guess that was not a good example to use, but in that case,
Yeah,
I guess what the point I was making on that is just like you got to listen to how you feel, right? And the point of like,
100%.
let's say you really are exhausted and you feel like, well, and here's another way I guess I have to remind myself. I'm like, well, that's true, is that there's a lot of people that don't know me, right? So if I go to this party and I'm really just mentally exhausted and I'm just like, I just don't feel that energy. I don't want to give across that vibe to these strangers that are
Right.
barely meeting me, and they're going to be like, "Well, what's up with this guy? He doesn't talk. He's quiet, right? Because you're exhausted from the
Yeah.
whole day." So I'd rather prevent that and stay home than portray myself as, "Well, this guy hardly talked. He didn't say much, you know." And I'm like, "No, that's not who I am. I was really tired. I'm sorry. You know what I mean?"
Yeah.
So I guess what the
Fair
point she was
enough.
making,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess what she was also making is that like I'd rather not come across and give that vibe of energy. Like I'm not fun at the party, which I am. I'm just mentally exhausted. But anyway, we're not here to talk about freaking all day on this subject. Okay, but yeah, anyway. But all right, well, now that I found out that you're an artist, yeah, well, how's that going being an artist, right? As of
I
right
mean, I
now.
think I tried to balance both for like a while.
Yeah.
So sort of I was homesteading and doing that, and then needed a change, like was feeling a bit stuck and kind of in a rut, and was like going through like relationship stuff, like kind of breakup stuff. And so I went back to school and went to art school, and did that. And then, but I, in the last couple years, decided just to, I've sort of put the visual art thing on the back burner because I was finding it too hard to like balance both. And I really sort of decided that music is what I'm more drawn to right now. And I had talked to a friend who is a really successful artist. He used to like sell to galleries and stuff like
Oh,
that.
cool. Nice.
And I was like, I don't, and I, was like, I just don't know how to do both. And he's like, well, it's okay to not do both. Like it's okay to put something on the back burner. I think capitalism really thinks that you need to like be doing the thing since you're really young and just like only be doing that thing to like prove that like how like dedicated you are to it or something. And even if it's like burning you out or you're not invested in it. And he's like, just stop. He's like, you don't need to keep doing it. And that like really resonated with me. So I've put like the visual art on the back burner quite a bit. Like I was very into painting and drawing and screen printing. I did that, like a lot of oil painting and stuff. And it's like those are skills that you need to keep maintaining, but it was too hard to do music and art, and sort of they take a lot of the same energy in terms of like if you want to be doing it in a capacity where people are seeing it, that requires a lot of the same energy
Right.
on top of like having to work a normie job because those things don't necessarily pay unless you're super successful, or especially in Canada. Like in Canada, in the States, there's a lot more like independent record labels and things like that. And like I feel what I see is there's a lot more support for
Mm.
like in some ways, and there's just more, there's a higher population in more places. Like this, like everything's so spread out here that it's harder to like tour and play shows and stuff like that in Canada. Um,
Is that right? Well,
and in a way that you're gonna like, I don't know, it's just yeah, different. I mean, I think so. Gosh, I'm like afraid that people are gonna like, I don't know, I might be speaking something that other people don't agree with. But yeah, I think everything, it's super isolated, and we're super spread out, and we don't have big cities like, in the States where you can like drive a couple hours and you're gonna be from one, and there's just a higher population in the US. So I just feel like you have more opportunities of people seeing and liking what you're doing, whereas there's definitely a scarcity mentality in Canada when it comes to creativity. I find people are way more supportive in the US, and I find that yeah, there's it's just different here.
wow.
So it's like you have to, if you're like trying to juggle all these things, I just decided that I actually just wanted to like focus on my songs and make them as good as they could be. And I still do a lot of visual arts, especially for like posters and stuff like that. People ask me to do stuff. But I definitely, yeah, it's just in the last couple of years, it's been on the back burner. Also, I've been like, you need to have a house and a studio space to be doing visual arts. And I've literally been super transient in the last couple of years. So
Mm.
I really haven't really had the space to like, and time to like sit in one spot, um, and kind of, be able to like sit and draw because I mean, some people are good to like do it on their own, but yeah, I feel like I really need as like a room and a space and like time to like lead up to it. And I've been on just so uprooted and kind of moving around and transient and trying to like work to save money so I could leave and do the things I want to do that there hasn't, yeah, my life just isn't conducive to like visual art so much right now. But there's people that do it. I have friends that are
Yeah.
like amazing painters and stuff, and they're better at doing it on, but everyone's different. I don't know. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, what's your plans then when you're saying you want to move? Are you wanting to move out like out of Canada to the States to
Oh no,
US?
I'm gonna move around a lot. Like I'm always on the move. I'm always on the move.
Oh, you're always on
But
them.
I guess that's what. Yeah.
Okay. Would you ever consider moving
Yeah.
to the States, US?
I mean, oh yeah, like I'm gonna be there for most of next year. That's the plan. Um, I definitely would move down there. It's just complicated with, it's not. I can't just move down there, but I'm like trying my hardest and doing my best.
Oh, that's fine. Well, let's talk well, let's talk about your
Yeah.
upcoming shows. I'm really curious to know when you start back on the road.
So I have a show this Friday coming up. We'll be headed to Alberta. There's a really great music scene in Alberta, and the Stampede's coming up too, which attracts a lot of like good musicians and some fun things. But there's like this little festival called Beaver Fever. It's in the country. It brings out a lot of like local Canadian artists that are pretty great,
Mm.
and it's in the mountains and the foothills. So I'll head out to play that show on Friday, and then I have a show in Nelson, BC, which is close to where I used to live. Um, if where my cabin was or is. So I still go back there sometimes. But yeah, I have a show in Nelson, BC, and then I have a show in Wayne, Alberta, which is this really cool small town. And there's a pub there called the Last Chance Saloon, or I guess it's a saloon bar. So playing the Last Chance Saloon and then playing in Calgary. And then I have a show on the Sunshine Coast, and then I'm currently booking some stuff for them out east, so like in Ontario and Montreal, and like maybe we'll make my way to the East Coast and play something in like some shows in Nova Scotia. So it's a little bit sporadic and spread
Yeah.
out for the summer, but that's sort of what's happening.
That's cool. Are you like your
Yeah.
own booking agent as well that you reach out to the venues?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't have a lot of stuff recorded, so I think my goal is to put more effort and to really gear up to like record some music so I have a body of work that's available for people to hear, which is going to make it easier for me to play shows because right now it's really hard to organize shows when no one really knows who you are and is doesn't really have access to what you're doing. So there's like, yeah, I'm sort of trying to back up and just focus on recording, I think. My plans to record in Montreal a song or two this summer, just so I have a single to release
Okay.
at this Midwest recording studio. So they're really awesome, and I have worked with some musicians that I really respect and like. And so that's a big plan that hopefully works out. Yeah,
Oh, cool. So you're going to be in the studio soon,
I
releasing.
I hope so. That's the
Yeah.
plan.
I hope it's soon. Yeah. Because I was going to ask you if you had any singles out on Spotify or Apple Music or
Not
YouTube.
currently, no.
No, no, that's fine. You probably have just a like, you have a collection of songs though that you're ready to put out on the,
I have
I mean,
tons, like dozens.
oh
Yeah.
man. I bet it-
Yeah. The problem is I keep writing new ones and there's years of songs. So we'll see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to hearing your first single when it's officially
Thank,
released. That's going to be
thank
big
you.
for you. Yeah.
Thank you.
So you think next year you'll be out around this side again, like El Paso, like in Texas area?
That plan, definitely, for
Yeah.
sure. I
Okay.
loved it. It was so beautiful and so much fun, and everyone was super sweet and supportive. And it was nice, like meeting new musicians and other people. And yeah, it was really
Yeah.
fun. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, and your experience with Valley Sessions too, right? In Las Cruces, New Mexico.
Yeah, they're super fun. I'm excited for that video to come out. We recorded like a live session video of one of my songs.
Mhm.
They were super kind, super sweet, super professional. And it meant a lot to like be asked to come out and yeah, do that. And
Yeah.
it felt like yeah, it was really supportive of them to do that. So that meant a lot. Any support that I like receive, whether it's just like a compliment or, something like that, like actually spending like a bunch of folks spending the day to like record one of my songs is so uplifting because it's so easy to be hard on yourself and it's so easy to focus on the lack of support or maybe the I'm trying to find my words here, but you don't you don't get support from everyone, and some people around you might kind of like scoff at what you're doing or sort of turn their nose up it or just maybe like not say anything or yeah, so when people are supportive, it's really hard to get up there and it's like really, really hard to like create something and then put it out there. That takes like a lot of courage. At least for me, I feel like I felt had a lot of hurdles and a lot of insecurities around it and like fears. And so when people are supportive, it goes like a long, 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 long way. So yeah, it means a lot.
Oh, just in time. I can't wait to ask you this.
Okay, good.
Now that we're on the subject, So for those that are starting or would like to start on writing a song, for those that would like to do their first session in a studio, but yes, you are right. There will be people that will criticize. There will be people that will listen to your work and be like, eh. And then there'll be some that'll be like, wow, like that's so
Hmm.
cool, right? Both sides. But from your experience, I mean, you're just, yeah, how did you overcome certain people that family, friends that are like, why are you doing this? Or friends that, I mean, there's those that are, we're more focusing on the overcoming the obstacles of the negativity, right? Where you feel like giving up. You feel like, why am I even doing this? And you think,
I,
well,
yeah.
where's my support, right? Where's my team? Where's those backing me up? So right now where you're at, and as June, what is today, 23rd? How did you go from, so what's the journey been like in overcoming that? Because you probably have had a few of those shares.
I mean, I think I'm still really trying to overcome and still really working on that
Yeah.
all the time, like every day. I'm not there to the point where I'm like fully in my power and fully believing myself. Um, but I think one thing that was like really important is I saw some quote. I won't be able. It's like so cheesy. Like this is really cheesy, but I just feel like one day I saw a quote about like when you're older and you're sitting there with yourself, and not having like how like your dreams will like they just will haunt you, and the things that you've wanted, if you don't really pursue them, they'll haunt you. And I think, I was like, well, when I'm like 80, I just want to be able to say that I tried. And we all will end up in the same place. And so it doesn't matter, like, yeah, people might laugh at me or think like it's not good, or like what is she doing, or it's not at a certain caliber. And I think they're not good, but those aren't the people that I'm going to be sitting with when I'm old. I'm going to be sitting with me. So I want to just know for myself that I did this thing that I always wanted to do. And I think I eventually, like through relationships and, kind of looking to other people to sort of like cheer me on, I realized that at the end of the day, you have to be your own like cheerleader in a way, or like, and
Hmm.
that is still really hard. You have to like, there's a lot of like voices you have to like push out of your head, and a lot of, criticisms, and they can be like so subtle, like, the most subtle word or even look can like totally destroy someone,
Hmm.
and I think you have to be like, just at the end of the day, be like, well, I have to have me. And so
Hmm.
I think there's like a combination of like, going through my own heartbreak and stuff like that. And it's been taking a long time. I'm not like 20 years old being like, I think when you're young, you think you can just like do it. If you like start with the momentum when you're in high school, you're like this invincible. And some people like get that momentum then and they like
Yeah.
just like kind of it. That's what, and then like go. And I think I sort of like starting kind of picking up an instrument later was already like that right in itself was this like, oh, well, I'm never going to be as good at it as anyone else. And then, I just, yeah, it was like, I don't want to be old and be like, oh, what if, or I should have, so it's really just at the end of the day, it's for me. And so I could sit with myself and be like, okay. And just be like, well, I tried. And even if it was ridiculous, we're all ridiculous in our own way, and we're all going to end up in this. So whatever. But yeah, I'm still like, I feel like I'm still trying to get better and still learning and still trying to figure out these things that people figured out like so long ago. But, I try to remind myself that we're all like different and we're all on our own path and journey. And, some of us are oak trees and some of us are, um, bamboo. And so it's like we all take different things and we all grow differently and we all are going to like bloom and blossom at different times. And so, yeah.
Wow, what an answer. Thank you. Oh yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I got to say, when I saw you perform here in El Paso, I have to, yeah, I believe in you. I know that you have,
Well, thank you.
you do, and you do, and it's, it's just it's okay to be reminded at times just what you have, and I
Yeah.
don't want you to ever give up. The only
Thank you.
time you would ever stop is because you told yourself, I'm going to
Yeah.
stop. Not by people criticizing you or people not supporting you. No, it's because you decided that. But you
Well,
have
I
so much
think,
to offer.
well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think working with kids really like switched something in me too, because I, the things that I would say to kids, I was like, well, why don't I say these things to myself?
Mhm.
I'd be like, I'm working with kids and I'm an art teacher. So,
Wow.
I'm trying to encourage them to follow their dreams and like
Right.
just do it and like not, you're enough and wanting, and I was like, well, the things I'm saying to kids, I really need to start saying to myself. And
Mhm.
so, that was like a big shift as well when I actually was, working with kids more. I was like, wait a second. I'm my own kid, so in there somewhere. Yeah.
That very true. Yeah, and I actually I'm the same way. And there's times with me I give so much inspiration and so much encouragement to my guests and all that, but then there's times in my life
Mhm.
where I sit and I'm like, dang, I need to help myself with what I'm saying to you to do the
Yeah.
same for me, you know? Because we all get our
Yeah.
feeling discouraged. We're not there at that status, and so so
Yeah.
no,
I
go ahead.
think if you have the desire to create something, then there's like a place for it in this world. And I think we don't realize when we're being critical of other creative people that you might actually stop something from being born. And that thing that could have been created or born might actually like influence someone in a really big way. So just because, you have like classical musicians that are like, playing these amazing symphonies, and then you have these simple folk artists playing like three chords. And I really think both have an important place in the world. And if someone was to be like, well, unless you're at this caliber, you shouldn't make something or create something or write something, well, that means you're going to stop that thing from coming into the world. And that thing could have actually had a huge impact on
Mm,
one person. I think that impact on that one person
right.
is important and significant. And so we need to be careful and just, yeah, encourage people to be creative and encourage ourselves to be creative, because, yeah, there's always a
Yes.
place for it
Yes, I
somewhere.
totally agree. Going with I was watching a well, actually I was watching a documentary on Steven Spielberg, and my brother told me, did you know when I guess around the time of Jaws coming out, that was a huge film for
Mm-hmm.
him. He was getting criticized a lot. I mean, even in the
Yeah.
80s, he was. And there was an interview that they asked him, how do you handle that? How do you handle people criticizing you and just putting you down? And this, of course, was taking place in the 80s, right? So around the film time of Jaws coming out. I mean, from what my brother told me, what he saw in this interview, he said, don't blink. I just don't blink, meaning I stay focused on my goal, on my vision. And you're going to have people around you criticize you. You're going to have the waves crashing. You're going to have certain people, but I just don't let it phase me. I stay focus on the dream, focus on the goal, on the vision that I have. I don't blink. I don't let it phase me because I feel like if it were to go more out, elaborating more on what he was saying, it's like if I start to
Mm-hmm.
look at everything around me of the waves crashing, listening, then it may affect me as an artist. It may
Yeah.
affect me because I'm letting it plant seeds in me, and then now it's holding me back from my potential. But if I believe, like I think earlier you mentioned, I'm still believing in myself to do this. Yeah, in the end, we still have to believe in ourselves to do to do this. There ain't no one else is gonna believe. We can tell you, Christy.
Yeah.
Everyone in the world can tell you we believe in you, Christy. But in the end, it's you that has to believe in you to do it because we're there to support. But
The-
in the end, you're the artist that's gonna create the masterpiece of your work, of the art. And if you don't have that in you,
Mhm.
where's the results? Where's the music? Where's the songs? And I think
Yeah.
that's what he was trying to say is, hey, I'm the one who has to believe in me because these people, yes, you'll have your share of those believing and you have those that criticize, but in the end, I'm the one who's putting the work. with my team, of course.
Hmm.
There's always a team that helps, but in the end, they look up to you, right? Like you're like if you go to the studio, you're gonna have your producer, you're gonna have the engineers, but in the end, you are the artist. Okay, Christy, we are here
Hmm.
to support you. We're here to help you. But in the end, it's your job to
I know it sounds
start singing.
terrifying.
Yeah, and I'm saying, but I mean, you know what I mean? Is like they're here to support you. But in the end, yes. Like for me, if I was filming a
Yeah.
movie, okay, Josh, we're here to support you. We're gonna do, you're the director, but it's okay to fail. It's okay to mess up. It's okay to figure out certain things while you're in that moment. You know,
Hmm.
that's the thing, if let's say you were to record a song, right? Your first track of the single, which you plan to, and then let's say during the session, sometimes something came up and you start to feel like, oh crap, I didn't expect that, or why does it sound like this? It's not what I thought before coming in here. It's okay. Like have some grace on yourself.
Hmm.
Like we're gonna reset. Okay, let's start over. Let's do it
Yeah.
again. That's it's okay. And that's how it is with me too, with certain things I start with. Like I
Well, thank you. I'm going to
yeah.
remember that when I'll
It's okay.
keep that
Yeah,
with me.
just I mean, when you have your first session in the studio, it's okay if
Yeah.
there's some mess up, mistakes. Don't be hard on yourself. Just okay. Let's get back up. Let's start over. It's okay. Don't just right away. You
Yeah.
know what? No, this is not for me. I'm done. Let's go. Like
I
no,
quit.
like
I'm a failure. Yeah.
no, no.
I think we all have
And
days,
yeah.
days.
And one thing that when they say it's okay to fail, they're not saying be a failure and stop. They're saying it's okay to
Mhm.
fail, but learn from your experience. You know,
Yeah.
that's how you grow as an artist. You learn from your failures, your mistakes, but you don't let that stop you dead on where you're just like, I'm done. No, you just like,
Hmm.
oh, well, now I learned. So let me try this route.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
Exactly.
so you'll be fine. You'll do great.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll
Yeah.
try my best.
Yeah, that's all we can do, right? Just do our best.
Hmm.
That's all we
Yeah.
can do. We're all trying to get through this life, trying to figure it out, try to do what we want to do. But yeah, just remember to also give back as much as you are being given, also to give back. Not I'm
Hmm.
not saying financial wise, but hey, if you have a friend that needs to talk, let's give an ear to listen.
Hmm.
Just certain things that we give at times where we forget. And I'm at that point right now where I had to think about certain gratitude things about my life. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I've been a little focused on what I don't have and little things that I'm
Yeah.
complaining about. When today I had a counseling session and they're like, "Well, Josh, have you ever thought or have you written down things that you are grateful for?" And I'm like, "Well, I haven't
Hmm.
lately." And they're like, "Well, I think once you start doing that, it's going to be hard to kind of complain and look at certain things. Not that I complain about a lot of stuff, but just certain things like we're human, right? We're going to complain."
Yeah.
But I
I
think
mean,
I'm like,
especially
yeah.
we have a lot to complain about in this
Oh, of
economy.
course, yeah. I mean, it's not that I'm like complaining about like everything.
Yeah.
There's just certain things that really get you. You're just like, God, I'm upset about this, or I'm complaining about this,
Yeah.
and it frustrates your day. But then you stop and think, okay, I have a roof over my head. I ate something today. I have clothes on my body. When there's other people out in other countries, they sleep on a dirt floor. They have to walk a mile or two to get a jug of
Hmm.
water. And there's people that wish they had clothes that were torn and here we are comfortable in these clothes that we have now. Just little things like that you forget.
Yeah, no, I think it's important to be grateful for what's around you for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to do more of that. Yeah, don't worry. So anyway, little lessons for you viewers. Count your
Yeah.
blessings, even the small things.
Yeah. Yes. Definitely.
Yeah, Christine. So before we end on this episode, I just want to say truly, truly an honor to have you on Rhythm and Roads. I know we've been
Well,
planning
thank
this
you. That's
since March. It's been a while.
yeah.
But one thing for
Yeah.
the viewers to know is when we started talking in person, it was really about Anna Green Gables.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. She was a big part of my childhood
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, the movies
Oh
with
yeah.
Megan Follows, yeah, those were really good.
Oh yeah, the Megan Follows
Yeah.
those movies, and even, I reread the book a couple years ago and it was like meeting an old friend again.
Wow.
Yeah, they're actually, I think people think they're kind of cheesy. People that haven't read Anne of Green Gables will think it's a little bit cheesy and quaint, but when
Of
you
course,
actually read
like
it, good. It's like this hilarious, adventurous, like
yeah,
firecracker girl, like oh,
yeah.
like with this huge imagination, that loved poetry and the flowers. Like I
Oh my
just
God.
resonated with her so much as a kid because I grew up in the country and was
Right.
always tromping about and imagination. So she definitely was, yeah, resonated with me a lot. I highly, if you've never read Anna Green Gables to anyone, I highly recommend it. I
Yes,
have
or
some nieces that are
yeah.
old enough to read it, and I'm so excited for them to discover her
Yeah.
because yeah,
Yeah, there are some good life lessons in those stories, you know?
yeah,
Yeah,
definitely,
especially in the films too with Megan Follows. So
yeah.
I got to say
I
one of
mean,
my
and the
favorite.
Anne with an E is also good.
Yeah, that was on Netflix, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
awesome.
You know, one of my favorite scenes from the Anna Green Gables with Megan Follows is the second movie
Okay,
is when Gilbert and Anne finally realize that they're meant for each other. You know,
okay,
and I love the scene when Megan Follows goes to where Gilbert's, almost dying, right?
yeah,
Remember that part in
I
the
remember
movie? Yeah,
that. Yeah,
that scene always gets me because it's like it took a certain point in Anne's life to realize by almost losing him that she
hmm
really does love him, you know? And it's just some I don't know. I'm a huge fan of that second movie of them because it just they're already grown, they're into college, she's teaching
yeah,
students, he's out being a doctor. But they always find, and then here he was almost going to marry someone else. Remember, Gilbert was going to marry someone
yeah,
else, and it's just very interesting because sometimes life's like that. You're with different partners,
yeah,
and all of a sudden you run into an old love, and all of a sudden like you realize, maybe in the end it's really you both.
yeah. I mean, of course, we all wanted Anne and Gilbert to be together like that.
Well, of course, yeah, we always I wanted that from the first movie. I'm like, I hope they end up. But
Like from the moment he pulled your braid, come on.
oh, the moment that he pulled her hair.
Yeah,
Yeah, the first movie. Yeah, I know. That's a funny scene.
yeah,
But yeah, my late
yeah.
mother brought us up in that movie in Anne of Green Gables. She was a huge fan.
Okay,
Yeah,
nice.
that's how I
Well,
started.
sorry about you. Yeah, awesome.
But alrighty, well, thank you so much, Christy, for coming on Rhythm and
Well,
Rhythm.
thank you so much. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and we're here to support you and I know I saw when we posted your poster, quite a few people liked it. And that's a good following there. I'm like, okay, you have a lot of followers that believe in you and want the best for
Well,
you.
that's cool. Thank you. Sometimes
Yeah,
it feel like that, but it definitely, yeah, any appreciation and support, it really, yeah, like I said, it goes a long way
it
for
does.
sure.
Yes. And for the
Yeah.
viewers to find you on Instagram, what's your Instagram?
So I think you can find me if you type in Christie Mae, Mae Casey, Casey, but also Gray the Deer. So I used to Gray the Deer is at Gray the Deer is my Instagram handle because I was going by Gray the Deer for a little while, but then I
Hmm.
decided to switch it up.
Okay.
So
All
yeah.
right. Sounds good. Well, thank you so much. It was such an honor to
Thank
have
you.
you on and share your journey.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we look forward to your new song coming out in the
Much
future.
appreciation.
Yeah, and seeing you on the road. So, all right, guys, thank
Cool.
you for
Yeah, I will keep
watching.
you posted for sure.
Yeah, please do.
Thank you.
All right, guys, thank you so much. We'll catch you on the next episode.